Thank you, everybody, for joining us today in our latest of webinars that we are co-hosting with NJM Insurance Group, where we've covered a variety of issues facing the business community in our webinars. And today, we're exploring the workforce and the skills shortage that's embedded in probably every business in the state, and is a very serious issue for all of our companies. Just to let you know that if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, and at the end of the discussion, if we have time, we will get to those questions. I want to thank NJM Insurance Group for the third year in providing us the co-hosting of these webinars. NJM has been a great corporate partner of ours and a great corporate citizen in the state for forever, and we couldn't do this without them. And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce David Negrin, Human Resources Administrator, NJM Insurance Group. David?
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dave Negrin. I'm Talent Acquisition Administrator for NJM Insurance Group. NJM is pleased to be the exclusive sponsor of the Chamber's Small Business Webinar Series. This morning's webinar on examining solutions for labor shortage is an issue that many of us are dealing with, and I will be handing it off to the panel shortly. I want to thank the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity to speak with you briefly today. The New Jersey Chamber has been an essential voice for the Garden State businesses for more than a century, and a vocal advocate in the corridors of the Capitol in Trenton. New Jersey, NJM has been helping small businesses meet their insurance needs since 1913. We've been the largest writer of workers' compensation insurance in New Jersey for more than 70 years now. We're a leading provider of commercial auto insurance as well. We wrote those two and only those two lines of businesses for the better part of a century. However, we've added new products to better service our policyholders and potential new customers. We're expanding our footprint at the same time. NJM is now a leading regional insurer serving business customers in Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, New York, Pennsylvania, and of course here in New Jersey. Our NJM Pro Edge business owner's policy combines protection for common property and liability risks designed for smaller businesses. The NJM Pro Pack commercial package policy protects mid to larger size businesses against property and liability risks. NJM business policyholders receive the highest levels of service, including access to nationally recognized claim service and certified loss prevention specialists. This focus on safety, which is long an NJM hallmark, helps business owners identify and correct workplace hazards before accidents occur. And if an injury should happen, our claims and medical service professionals work to mitigate losses and contain claims costs. We take pride in aligning the right coverages for our policyholders, providing an outstanding customer experience, and sharing profits in the form of dividends. We want to help our policyholders grow and in turn grow with them. If you're not an NJM business customer, I encourage you to visit njm.com and review our agent directory, get a free quote, or just contact us with any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And again, thanks to NJM Insurance Group for your partnership and supporting this series of webinars for the last 3 years. I'm sorry?
I was going to say thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah. So before we get into the meat of the discussion, what I'd like to do is introduce our 4 panelists and have them each give you all a brief description of their backgrounds. So let me start with Lynn Spence, Chief People Officer at T&M Associates. Lynn?
Good morning, everyone. Lynn Spence, as Tom said, Chief People Officer. T&M is a full-service engineering consulting firm, and we've been servicing our communities and clients for over 55 years. I head up human resources, been here 14 years. Majority of my career has been in engineering consulting, although I've spent some time in financial communications as well as consumer goods. I also have the pleasure of overseeing our marketing and branding here at T&M, so happy to be part of the discussion today.
Thank you very much. Michael Iris, AVP of Alumni Relations and Career Services at Berkeley College. Michael?
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to have part of this important conversation. So work for Berkeley College. I'm based out of our Woodland Park, New Jersey campus. We also have campuses in Newark, New Jersey, Woodbridge, New Jersey, Manhattan, and an online location. We have over 3,500 students, combining all of our locations together. Very diverse backgrounds, first generation students, career changers, working professionals. So I'm really excited to, participate in this conversation today. We're a career-focused, mission-driven institution, offering certificate programs, associate degree programs, bachelor degree programs, and master degree programs. And my focus here at the institution is the alumni engagement piece, but also career development, really aligning with the mission for the institution. And I've been with Berkeley College for 12 years.
Michael, thank you. Cathy Bennett, President and CEO, New Jersey Hospital Association.
Hi, Tom. Thanks so much for having me join the panel today, and to NJM for sponsoring. You're right. This is a really important conversation, and one that we in healthcare are really looking at. At the New Jersey Hospital Association, we represent all of New Jersey's hospitals together with the entire continuum of care. And we've been doing that for over 100 years. We're looking at what their interests are, what are the good policies, and what we can do to improve the health of New Jerseyans. In addition to our work, directly representing all of our membership, which we're about 400 members strong, we also have our Health Research Education Trust of New Jersey, our not-for-profit, where we've been really engaged on quality improvement projects, a lot of work, particularly with the First Lady's Office on Maternal and Child Health, but a bunch of other quality improvement projects as well. And then, of course, we have our for-profit healthcare business solutions.
Thank you, Cathy, and thanks for joining us today. And the fourth panelist we have is Amanda Dominguez, Chief Operating Officer of WIS. Amanda?
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. As you mentioned, my name's Amanda. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at WIS & Company. We are a regional accounting firm headquartered in Florham Park, New Jersey. We provide tax accounting, advisory, and wealth management services to middle market clients. I've spent my entire career so far in the public accounting space, with close to a decade on the client service side. So I guess I'm contributing to the labor shortage on the accounting side, but I was able to pivot. I spent a few years as the head of people at WIS. And now as the COO, I help to really execute the firm's strategy across our service lines and our operational areas, and certainly anything related to talent. The shortage, acquisition, retention is all a big focus of many of our conversations. So thank you again. Looking forward to getting into this today.
Amanda, thanks for being here. So let me kick this off by getting right to the big issue. How has this labor shortage impacted each of your companies, both short-term and long-term? And Cathy, you want to kick it off?
Happy to do so. I think it's no surprise to anybody as we take a look at what's happening in New Jersey specifically. We're seeing that our population's aging, we're seeing chronic diseases becoming more prevalent, and our hospitals are treating sicker patients. And what we've seen, short term, and what we're projecting over the next 10 to 15 years is that the supply of healthcare professionals is just not sufficient to meet the current demand. We think that gap is going to just continue to widen as each year moves forward. And this, unfortunately for us, wasn't unexpected. If you take a look back, even about 5 or 6 years ago, the federal government put out a report that said that New Jersey was going to have a shortfall of about 11,400 registered nurses by 2030. That was the third largest gap in our country, behind only California and Texas. And if we think about it, that's also fueled in a really large part by the aging of our healthcare workforce. Just give you a little color commentary. About 1 in every 4 nurses in New Jersey today are in that 56 to 65 age group. And that gives you a sense as to why we think we're going to see a widening gap.
So a question, Cathy, sort of as a follow-up. I mean, I keep reading about intelligent immigration policy and the opportunity to bring into the country people who could fill some of these healthcare gaps. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, Tom. This is one of the things that we've worked with, with our congressional delegation, and it's one of the big issues in DC. What can we do with J-1 visas? What can we do? Like we did actually in days of old when we worked with other countries to bring, healthcare workforce to New Jersey. You might all remember, I guess it was probably about 15 years ago when we were dealing with a similar shortage. And a really good partnership began with the Philippines and brought in a lot of nurses. So things like that are under examination again. And we've seen it for particularly quite a few of the clinical positions.
And we too are working with our congressional delegation and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce to get some intelligent immigration policies in place. So
exactly,
enough pressure gets it done.
That's exactly
Lynn,
right.
you want to talk about that same question at T&M?
Sure. Obviously having the same challenges that all are having in terms of the labor shortage, and that really is impacting our ability to perform work at certain degrees. There's been an influx of work, as we all know, on a federal and state level for the infrastructure as well as environmental needs across the country, and the backlog is there and building, and we're continuing to find challenges with experienced, skilled project management level employees to be able to really execute and deliver on that work. It also has an impact on your existing staff because those individuals are really working beyond their means, so it causes some burnout there as well. And then additionally, the labor shortage has really created a challenge around compensation and the inflation around that, and really that outpacing dramatically the rates at which we're even being paid for the services that we're providing to our clients. So certainly all around seeing an impact on the labor shortage.
Okay. How about in the accounting industry, Amanda?
I would say a lot of our issues mirror much of what Lynn talked about, also being in professional services. I think with accounting specifically, I'm sure many of you have read about, it's been all over the Wall Street Journal. There's a shortage of accountants. There's a decline in students pursuing accounting degrees, a decline in candidates sitting for the CPA exam. So alongside all of those things that Lynn mentioned, right, making pure competition for talent, competition to retain and attract, meeting client demands, all of those things, we worry about the long-term state of the profession. If with an aging workforce and a decline in the younger population coming in, we worry about what the long-term state of the profession can be.
So the thing that always strikes me as odd in hearing what you just said, and I've read the same thing, is that accounting backgrounds and law backgrounds are great foundations for any job you want in any industry in the country. So what are the reasons why people are giving for not pursuing accounting degrees?
I think there are so many reasons. I think foremost, the accounting profession, much like the law profession, it has an image problem, right? Even today, we talk about this problem with getting accountants and attracting young folks to the profession. But when you talk to an accountant, all they speak about is how busy they are in busy season and how hard they work. And I think there's this stigma around sort of like a lot of work, a lot of burnout, and not as much reward. And I think there's some truth to that, right? We've had to really dig deep and think about, like, is the way we make people work sustainable? Can we change that? We have to look at compensation, because there are a lot more sort of glamorous paths to take that are more high paying to start. And I think people are more attracted to those routes, and we have to think about that and change as a profession.
Michael, what about in the higher ed field?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I agree with everything that my fellow panelists have said so far. Higher education is not immune to this. Obviously, we've had our own challenges with turnover, with declining enrollments, which is affecting that, which of course can affect the labor market as well. Across the country, you read about this every day. But I love that Lynn specifically brought up burnout, because it's so important that we be mindful of our current employees and burnout. I actually just finished my dissertation last year, and it was focused on burnout on higher education professionals. So, there's the need to recruit people, but it's also really important to retain the talent that you have. And when there's other opportunities out there, and education is notorious for being maybe lower paying than the other sectors out there, that's definitely a challenge. And I think, like Amanda was just saying, the needs or the wants of the job seeker today has shifted. So maybe that 50-hour-a-week accounting position is not really as attractive to job seekers today, who are seeking work-life balance and flexibility, and the thought of being overworked and that burnout piece is just not attractive. So of course we experience that on the staffing side of the institution in higher education, but then also on the employer side. So higher education institutions partner with employers to solve or to assist with their talent needs. And like I said, that's a big focus of my work here at the institution. And we have seen a significant uptick in the employers reaching out to us. We're actually hosting a career fair on April 30th, and we have over, I think it's up to 84 hiring employers participating in our career fair. And we haven't seen numbers like that in many, many years. So, I think employers and industries and sectors are looking at higher education institutions to partner with to help with that. But the other thing that I think you guys on the sector side and the employer side should be conscientious of, when you're working with campus career centers, yes, you'll have your junior level, recent grad, entry level population, but we also work with our alumni population, who are established professionals who we provide career guidance for, as well as our working adult professionals who are enrolled in our master degree programs and stuff like that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Definitely establish partnerships with the institutions that align with your industry, based on the majors.
So I always take with a grain of salt this term burnout. Veterans like we all are, I think, have probably gone through several burnouts in our career, and we fought through them, and we found a way to pace ourselves to get from where we were to where we are. And what I'm finding in some of the younger people coming into the workforce is they are not looking at careers as much as they are a job. And their definition of a job is 9 to 5, now nothing at night, nothing on the weekends. And that's a contributing factor, I think, to some of the problems we're talking about. So does anybody else see that as a contributor to this problem?
I think they certainly value and prioritize different things, if we're sort of generalizing. I think that's normal. I think honestly, COVID accelerated a lot of this thinking for all generations, right? We started questioning what really matters, and is this what life is all about? So I think that happened to some extent for all of us. But I would argue too that I think they just have to be engaged differently. I think that sometimes we just throw up our hands and say they don't want to work. They don't want to, they don't put in what we put in, back in my day, all those things, right? But they have to be inspired. They have to be mentored and coached, and those are the things. I think that they want that, and nobody, I believe, I like to see the good in people, and I believe that nobody wants to come to work and do a bad job. We just have to engage them differently and provide them that mentorship and that guidance that I think that generation so seeks.
And mentorship, guidance, and all that. I mean, COVID put a big bunch of hurdles in front of us as we got through COVID, because it really exaggerated those things. So anybody else want to comment on that?
I'll jump in. I agree completely, Amanda. And I think, when looking at the generational differences, Gen Z will make up 30% of our workforce by 2030. So when you think about the drivers and motivators of Gen Z, it's really purpose-driven work. So really, I do think the pandemic changed the world. That was a life event for that generation. as well as others. So we saw people leave the industry after COVID, or just really overall change careers at that point. But really thinking about how you engage the multi-generations within the workforce to attract and retain them is a critical component. You need to be very adaptable and agile around that. It's not a one size fits all. So there are challenges and there are different programs, maybe incentive wise, as well as flexibility wise, that you need to meet and change. It is different based on the generation.
You know, it's really interesting you say that, Lynn, and I have to say this, we're seeing the same thing in healthcare. It's about, you know, mission, it's about mentoring, which, you know, Amanda mentioned, and then it's also meeting them where they're at. And you're right, COVID changed everything. We saw that, I think, you know, as all frontline workers did during that period of time. You know, it wasn't just about resilience. I think it raised a lot of larger questions about, you know, where did you want to spend your time? You know, how did you actually create that balance that you're looking at? And it's interesting because I think generationally we've, you know, started that conversation of work-life balance, which I would argue in the 70s and 80s that, you know, our parents would have thought sounded a little hinky. And, you know, by the 90s and the aughts, we were talking about work-life balance. So I think this is just the natural progression, and it requires us to be a bit more creative and a bit more innovative and really lean in on things that make jobs more interesting. And I think that's the other piece of it. So, you know, just that's I think ties into the how do you meet them where they're at.
I think corporate or company culture also plays a big piece of that now, because job seekers are looking for, you know, job seekers and employers are looking for that cultural fit. But, you know, you have an educated workforce in the sense that, you know, or the job seeker, I should say, they read reviews online, they see salaries online. They're so much more aware. There's just access to so much more information today than there was many years ago with that. And I think when you look at kind of like social related issues, companies that support environmental causes or you know, things like that, job seekers look for that. They look for the values of the organization, and they don't want it to just be like a check mark. Oh, we put it on the website. They want to actually see that your industry or your sector or that your organization is committed to that. So going back to those motivators, you know, what motivates a job seeker, they look for that. And if it's not authentic, I think they'll recognize that. And that's definitely a challenge.
So speaking of motivators, the old phrase money talks. What role does escalating wages play in helping solve this problem? Is it a significant part of the solution, or is it just one part of many aspects of the solution?
Favorite topic. I think it's always a piece of the solution. It's always one aspect or component of what individuals are looking for in their careers, and people have aspirations. So I think being competitive and offering those opportunities to continue to earn and progress in compensation is really key. But I really believe it's always a part of a reason for somebody leaving, but it's never the reason, because I do truly believe even with that higher compensation, once they've gotten to that position, that really they just adapt and adjust, and that kind of fades. And then it's like it's the other things that are really the purpose, the type of job, the way the organization cares about the employee, the opportunities that really come into play. So salary is always a component and always part of the conversation. However, I find it's never really the only sole reason or solution.
Anybody else?
I'll say that, you know, as we've been looking at it, and as we, you know, continue to look at sort of how benefits packages have evolved, it's really been about how do you take someone's time that's related to work, including that time to travel, and really, you know, limit what's there so that when you're at work, you're fully working. In healthcare, you've got to be bedside for a lot of the positions. So, you know, that means that, you know, creatively you'll see things like on-site daycare so that you don't have another stop along the way that adds time into your workday. That also means, like, you know, leaning into what technology offers. We have some members that are saying, you know what, rather than, the traditional like 312s, we're going to look at flexible scheduling, or we're going to look at maybe, creating your own schedule. Or we have this other piece with, the advent of telehealth. Maybe some of what you do is telehealth and the rest is on-site, bedside. So it's rethinking what the delivery system looks like. So I think that's as a big a piece as, the other benefits and the pay. I think that they all tie together. So money is definitely an aspect, but it's not the only aspect.
I think I totally agree, Kathy. I think you hit on a really important point that flexibility, it's not work-life balance anymore. It's work-life integration, and it's statistically proven there are a lot more dual income families now, which means that, both parents carry the burden of parenting and dealing with household and all of those things. So flexibility is a requirement. There are life things that happen during the traditional 9 to 5, and there are work things that happen outside of the 9 to 5. And I think companies that can lean into that, embrace it, that in many cases can be more valuable than compensation.
In many cases, the employers provide that flexibility, and they may not necessarily have the funding for the salary increases and stuff like that, but they retain their employees because of that flexibility. And that there's that fear factor of, oh, if I jump ship or take another position, I might not have this. You know what I mean? So going back to the retaining piece of employees, I think that's a major factor as well.
So most of the, not most of them, but I think a lot of the people on the call today are most interested to hear what you all are doing strategically to deal with these problems. What initiatives you have in place to deal with the shortage and a lot of things we just talked about. So can you all please give us some ideas of strategies you're employing now to deal with the situation? Cathy, you want to kick it off? You're on mute, Cathy.
I saw that. Sorry about that. Sure, happy to kick it off. I gave a couple of examples to start, but some of the larger, employers have the ability to do things like on-site daycare. Smaller ones are, making sure that they're creating partnerships, for example, with daycares that are nearby. And making sure that, again, it's that thing where it limits the rain that's involved with multiple stops along the way. We're also seeing we've got the sandwich generation, those that, have, older children, but they're also starting to care for aging parents. And you're seeing a lot more when we say flexibility come in there. So even in healthcare, when you're dealing with aging parents, you still have to worry about getting them to appointments or being available to consult when they're in appointments. And so that's some of the flexibility that starts to, build in. One of the other things that we're seeing is that you have something called flexible scheduling. And historically, this is really tied to that burnout where you've got 312 shifts. And you think about, what it looks like to work for 12 hours straight, what parts of the day that you're missing, and what does it mean, particularly in a dual income house where one parent hands off to the other. And that's been something that we've been hearing more and more about as time goes on. And so we've heard it from, I'd say across like all ages within nursing. And so we're seeing things like using telehealth and saying, what, do a shift, in-person bedside and, do telehealth as the other one. So you get to, manage where you're at. The other that piece that we're starting to hear about is there's this sense that, if you're going to be doing telehealth, that everybody's sitting in some gigantic call center. And of course, that doesn't work. And, one of the things we're seeing in New Jersey is that, we're looking at how you can help support that and drive flexibility by allowing it in alternative remote environments, including places like, your home. So there's a lot that goes into it, though, because being in healthcare, you're highly regulated. You have to worry about patient confidentiality, HIPAA, all the security pieces. So one of the things we've been really leaning on is also the technology and advancing it so that you can give that secure environment as well. So those are just a few of the examples on the flexibility. And then I think the other piece as we continue to look at it is, how do we redefine care delivery models? And that's probably the most important. And, this is just kind of a quick example, but if you think back to the aughts, I love that word, the aughts, if you did something like a joint replacement and, somebody be in the hospital and you have a nurse or a series of nurses helping to support the patient through their entire journey in the hospital. And then the patient would be discharged, to a rehab center, and then from rehab center to home. And we just look at what's happened with something like that. And now it's not just about, the nurse providing the support. We've got a whole team of individuals, and the nurse is wearing, the hat that they should, which is helping to coordinate all the resources. So you'll have, an ambulatory therapist, for example, helping to walk the patient, get the patient moving if it's a hip. You have in, you'll have in a pharmacist or, that would be bringing, your meds, to the bedside. So you have others that are involved in the care delivery models. And I think that will continue to grow in importance. And then what we've also seen is as we get more, sophisticated with what we're doing in healthcare, and this is a good example, even with the joints, you're getting discharged home. And that's happening a lot more quickly rather than going through multiple steps. And that's because of the sophistication that comes in with the care that's being delivered, the surgeries that occur.
And the quicker they're discharged home puts more pressure on the work-family balance and the family to provide that care. So
thank you very much for summarizing that. That's exactly where it all ties together.
Anybody else like to comment on that, please?
Yeah. So I think how we're addressing it short term is really focusing on our existing employee population. Retention is a huge piece. We actually measure and track retention and set retention goals each year. So all of our leadership is responsible, and that really holds accountability for really paying attention to and retaining our staff. Also identifying the critical skills that are necessary to move our business forward, and really investing in training and development and upskilling of our employees, so that you can really promote from within and allow those opportunities for progression within the organization. Longer term, it's really about building the pipeline of talent. So T&M has formed a foundation about 2 years ago, and one of the aspects of it is STEM education. So we invest in scholarships, sponsoring scholarships. We have a robust internship program. We also do a lot of volunteer and really partner with colleges and universities, not just to show up to career fairs, but to do classroom presentations, to really build a brand and identity with the students, and really just build awareness about the opportunities that exist within the industry and the field. So kind of taking a multi-pronged approach.
Amanda?
I would agree. Our developing from within has always really been core to our strategy. So we focus a lot on early career, first and foremost, like sort of building that pipeline. We have a really strong sort of recruiting team, and one team within the recruiting team focuses on early career. So it's really about fostering those relationships on campuses with the career advisors, but with also the students, building those relationships. We're starting sooner. In the past, it would be like focus on your juniors and your seniors. That's too late. They're already swooped up in many cases by larger companies with more resources, right? So we're looking at different pathways, not just the traditional internship program, but partnering with universities on co-ops, intern for a day, rotational programs. Most recently, we've even started to go into high schools, start planting the seeds there, especially to combat this issue of declining accountants pursuing those degrees. So on sort of pipeline, that's what we're doing. I totally agree with Lynn as far as just retention. Like, we really believe in the experience, like the employee experience, and that starts on day one, right? So focusing on how you onboard them, the training that you provide to them, the mentorship that you provide to them. We have a growth champion program where, we assign every employee to a mentor. Just checking in with your people. Are you working on the right things? What skill gaps exist? In order to get to where you want to be, what training do we have to provide you? it goes a long way. And I think just on the day-to-day experience, we've had a really great success rate of having people back in the office, even though we're hybrid, because we try to make it an environment where people want to be. So whether that's wellness events, mental health events, just networking in the office, team building, things like that, just to really foster those relationships. So I think that's important. I think Michael talked about this, but you have to partner in your community. So whether that's with colleges and universities, with associations, the New Jersey State Societies, things like that, they help to provide a bigger platform so that we can really reach candidates and people looking for opportunities.
Michael?
So from the employee side, staff retention, faculty and staff retention is definitely key. Higher education is not immune to this. We discussed burnout. We've followed those same procedures with mental health and awareness, through HR and different sessions to encourage, strong mental health and all that type of stuff. On the employee side, it's music to my ears how you're saying that you want to establish meaningful connections and relationships with campus career centers. And senior year and junior year is definitely too late. High school is also a potential. I mean, we offer career focused workshops to high school students as well. So it's really great to see that employers are also jumping on that bandwagon. But on the topic of mentorship and professional development, this is something that the job seekers that we work with constantly ask about. And employers who have those established programs are usually a little bit more attractive or desirable because the candidate sees that there's potential there. Something that we do at Berkeley to provide kind of like assistance for our employer partners, we have a corporate learning partnership program where we partner with different organizations. And what we do is we offer a 30% tuition reduction to the employees of the organization. And it's also extended to the immediate family members. So this is nice because we identify our corporate learning partners or the individuals that we want to, have these working relationships for internships and full-time and part-time job opportunities. But then we say, hey, if you believe in us and you want to work with us, this is something you can offer to your employees. Their family could take advantage of it as well. And our employer partners really appreciate that because they're like, wow, that's like an additional benefit on top of the tuition reimbursement benefit that we're providing. So we're always looking for solutions and to work closely with, different chambers, business associations, and individual organizations as well. And we really don't have a size requirement for that. We want to focus on the sectors that are relevant to our student alumni population. So the staff retention piece is huge, but then also the career advancement or the professional development, whether it be certificate programs, those are all the rage right now. Continuing education, there's so much opportunity there. And higher education institutions, including us, are becoming more flexible with that and are now enabling individuals to take advantage of those opportunities.
So we have a tidal wave coming. It's called artificial intelligence. And it's ripe with opportunity. It's ripe with risk. Do you all feel that artificial intelligence plays a role in helping with this workforce shortage?
I'll chime in on this one because it's all I've been reading about lately. It feels like there's certainly been a lot of speculation, a lot of debate about this, fear, uncertainty. That's certainly not how we view it. I think AI will play a critical role in the future of all industries. We'll be focused on investing there, priming our organization for adopting it, training our workforce for how to use it, how to implement it. But we don't believe that it entirely replaces, human accountants, for example. And instead, we think it complements their work and allows them really the time that's needed to focus on higher value type of work.
Okay.
I would agree. I believe in the engineering industry, what we're seeing certainly is going to be a major just component of the workforce going forward, but really more about creating more efficiencies in how we work, looking at it from the functional aspect of how we run our business and where can we integrate and utilize technology and AI, truly be more efficient as a business so that we can have our people really focus on some of the higher level skill areas or client relationship focused areas. So, but really making sure you have a policy around it, making sure you're educating your workforce, training. We're implementing the Microsoft Copilot. So really utilizing it in ways that you can enhance the way that you're doing work and really make up potentially for some of the shortage in labor and talent.
So Lynn, a question, in the engineering field, which is a lot of calculations and mathematical accommodations,
Yeah.
I think AI is a perfect fit for solutions to some of those engineering problems. Am I wrong?
It's a little scary to think about. I do think there's components of it. I think there's a lot more that needs to be formed in terms of the advancement of AI, but there's so many components. It's not just the calculations, right? It's understanding the goals that are needed to be achieved, understanding what's happening out in the field, understanding the various components that go beyond just the calculations. So I do think it will play a role. I don't think it will replace the expertise and really value that the engineers as individuals bring to the overall process.
Cathy, how about in the healthcare field?
I have to agree with Lynn. First off, I think engineering or, healthcare, they're equal parts, art and science, and technology is never going to replace that expertise and judgment of a healthcare professional that works as part of a team where you put the patient firmly at the center. And I think, Lynn's basically seeing this same thing with engineering, because you have to worry about the structures that you're building. And so you need that art and science. It's not, AI alone. But, within, I'd say specifically healthcare, we welcome technology, and we've been working to harness it to create a healthier New Jersey. You've seen an explosion in medical technology, predictive modeling, and AI over the past 10 years. And what's really interesting is over that same time period, healthcare employment increased in New Jersey at an annual rate of 1.7%. That outpaced the 1% growth that took place statewide, and it also outpaced our population growth of 0.4%. So technology we see as being an enhancer. Things like AI, I think, bring to us greater efficiencies. It will help drive better clinical outcomes because it can go through just gigantic. We're no longer talking tetrabytes of data, but we're beyond that. We're in the Zeta realm, and start to see patterns that just humanly we can't analyze that volume that quickly. So we think it will lead to different improvements in the quality of care, because we're starting to see patterns maybe emerge that we hadn't seen earlier. We can also assess the efficacy of different innovations, and we can look at it across a broader population than in the past. And that's just too very immediate. And that's where we see, I think, some really quick application for AI. And that's where we've been seeing some of our members go already. But, in other areas of healthcare, you see the same thing, taking place, whether it's, within, testing, and whether it's within, innovative new treatments. So really helpful, I think.
And the prevalence of robotics, that's AI. The robotics is AI, right?
It's funny. We were just talking about it. It absolutely is. And if you think about, the differences, that was sort of the joint thing, right? Remember, when you used to get a procedure, you'd also have a scar that would be very long, accompanied.
I have one. Yes, thank you.
So think about, the changes that have occurred just, within a 10-year period. The same with, you think about gallbladder surgery, which, used to be also very significant, is now like 3 little arthroscopic cuts, and it's, robotic, and it's a quick, you pull that thing out and you're done, and you can be back at work the next day. So there's a lot of good news that happens from an economic perspective. There's the life balance perspective, and that's AI. That's what's so, I think, exciting about healthcare. That's why I think it's been so attractive to students. When we go into middle school classrooms and when we go into high school classrooms, they're intrigued because the gamers of today see robotics and think that's part of the future. Those that are in 3D printing, they're hearing stories about custom design joint replacements being 3D printed. Think about like how it opens the door for biomechanical engineering. These are the things like, the opportunities, the careers of the immediate future. They're things we're not quite, have our hands specifically around, but they're pretty exciting.
Michael?
So, so AI is just advancing so quickly, and it's touching all the different industries. And in the conversations that we're having with employers and advisory panels and such, there's fear and uncertainty, but I don't think it's leaning towards that AI is going to replace everybody. You're still going to need the human talent. I think you're going to enable people to work more effectively, collaborate or crunch data, ways that we haven't been able to do in the past. So there's tremendous potential there. But I think there's also this large element of fear and uncertainty related to AI that's out there. And the only way that we're going to counteract that is with education. So, I think employers that are forward thinking and proactive with educating their team members on the benefits and how this is, going to help the businesses and organizations is definitely key. And I think the employees that are receptive to it and open to learning and embracing it, it's only going to make them more competitive as individuals and also the organization. From the academia standpoint, I could tell you higher education academia is scrambling right now to figure out policies related to the AI writing and the plagiarism and all that. That's a whole other conversation in itself. But from the employer side and, employer and recruitment, I think the companies that embrace it and feel like, that it's going to be utilized to make their sectors and their companies and employees more effective will definitely have the upper hand in that.
So we have about 10 minutes left. Kevin, do we have any questions in the chat box that you can present to the panelists?
Yeah, here's one on, New Jersey's an extremely diverse state. Is anyone looking at bridging the language and people skills gap, specifically in fields which attract people whose first language is not English? So any thoughts on that?
I can take that one to start with. We sort of addressed it to begin with when we said we need to bring in, more foreign workers to help fill, different positions that are needed in healthcare. Tom mentioned it, saying, that the chamber's also looking to that. But we also have a lot of first generation here in our state. And, we've been leaning in with that. We have a program at the Hospital Association we run that's called Bridging the Gap. And it's specifically about bridging that, language barrier so that patients who come through get to hear, speak, and meet somebody that's coming from the same place. But we also need to make sure that the accurate clinical terminology is the stuff that's being communicated back and forth. So, that becomes, I think, a really important piece of it. It's part of, one, an employment strategy, two, improving a healthier community, and three, making sure that opportunities to advance all New Jerseyans, with at least the healthcare industry are there and that we're helping to support it.
Anyone else? Another question, Kevin?
There's a lot of talk about college and, reaching out to colleges and universities, but college is not for everybody. So someone asks, have you ever thought, any of the industries thought about reaching out to high schools and even middle schools to try to attract people to their professions who maybe, college isn't for them?
I can take that one because we're certainly looking at sort of being creative. There is there's a pathway within the accounting profession, which is bookkeeping type of work that does not require a college degree. And we are very much in need of those types of professionals as well. And so we actually partner with, we're starting to partner with schools in Jersey City to sort of get at that even that middle school age to start to teach them about accounting. And the hope is that we can develop programs to really have them sort of apprentice and learn that bookkeeping path, which honestly, we've even been able to develop our bookkeepers into accountants along the way if they were willing to go back to school down the line. So that's something we're really passionate about and excited for the opportunity there.
I mean, I'll jump in real quick just because there's that whole debate now at the national level with the questioning the value of a college degree in education. And, you know, higher education institutions are not ignoring that, you know what I mean? So if somebody doesn't want to invest in a full bachelor's degree, you know, a full degree program, they're offering certificate programs, very specialized, short programs. We actually have a continuing education program. We actually, you know, marketed or term the term stackable credentials because, you know, college isn't for everybody. And there's various different paths out there leading to different, you know, opportunities and stuff like that. The other thing that I'll mention specifically on the employer side, we're seeing an adjustment. Maybe this is AI related because sometimes job descriptions are horrific, but, you know, we're seeing an adjustment with the requirements for positions. So there's that whole debate providing more accessibility if you remove a bachelor's degree to requirement for specific positions and stuff like that. Maybe it's not a requirement, but it's a suggested or preferred you know, degree. So that's actually also expanding your pool of potential candidates as well. So you see how higher education institutions are trying to still be relevant with the not interested in college, but we have other, you know, smaller programs or stackable credential certificate programs for you. But then also I'm seeing a trend with employers starting to reevaluate requirements for specific positions, kind of like Amanda was just saying, how, you know, it doesn't require a specific degree, but I'm still going to promote it and put it out there.
Kevin, any others?
We have a question. I believe it was already addressed, but in drawing people to professions in certain jobs, childcare, is that a major issue for when people are applying for positions, and what are you all doing about it? I believe that was addressed already. I don't know if anyone wants to just mention anything about that.
I think we just,
Go ahead.
I would just,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I would just say, I think, as Amanda had mentioned earlier, I mean, having like working households, both parents, I think that definitely is a challenge. The hybrid and flexibility of work has contributed to at least supporting more flexible work, supporting home life. So we are definitely very flexible in terms of our hybrid schedules and opportunities to work different flex hours to accommodate for different childcare needs. Also looking at it from a perspective of parental leave, we just implemented a new parental leave benefit where previously we did not have that. And while we do have the benefit in New Jersey of having a family leave insurance program as well as disability, you know, state mandated disability, other states that we operate in do not have those benefit programs. So offering a parental leave benefit program for caring and bonding with a child over the first 12 months of that child being born is a new benefit that we implemented that was very, very excited. Our employees were excited to see.
We are the most progressive state in the country with regard to those policies.
Yeah.
And the other side of the childcare issue is the state has to make sure that there is adequate childcare facilities, both staffed and supported financially, which they've had trouble with. So it's not just a matter of having people find those facilities. It's a matter of having those facilities available. So it's a significant problem that has two big sides to it. So we are near the end, and let me just ask each of you to have a sort of a very rapid fire final comment on your view of this situation staying the same, if there's hope for it to get better, or do you see it declining? So Amanda, you want to kick that off?
Sure. I think we've well documented all of the struggles that everybody's facing and sure poses a lot of challenges. But I would encourage everyone to sort of lean into what's changing. Certainly, if you're going to dig into what's been done before, you're going to be frustrated and you're not going to find success. But I think that it's time to really reimagine what we've been doing, reimagine what the future could look like, and hopefully we'll land at sort of a better way forward.
Okay, Lynn?
Well said. I agree. I do think that we need to think differently about have a short-term strategy, but have really a long-term view of where we want to be and what we need to be doing to adapt as organizations, as leaders, to really attract and retain talent within the industry and beyond. So really be open to that and investing in your workforce.
Michael?
I think taking care of your people, your employees, is really important. Just as important as retaining or attracting new talent. Establish meaningful relationships and partnerships with organizations that align with your industry or your sector. Utilize college, university, campus career centers. It's never too early. Earlier the better. So it's not just going to a career fair. Come to the classrooms, interact with faculty. That's going to make great connections for the future. And then also with childcare, maybe your company can't, it's not large enough to establish a childcare center, but see if there's a potential for a partnership that one already exists, because that could be a potential, benefit that a potential employee could take advantage of, or current.
Hey, Cathy, take us home.
Okay, I'm going to change it a little bit and just say, you know what? We've talked about retention, we've talked about resilience, we've talked about what we need to do as employers. I'm going to just say the other thing I'm looking at is, that next generation coming into the workforce. In healthcare, I can speak to 73% of our healthcare workforce is educated in New Jersey, stays in New Jersey to work. We've got Pennsylvania and New York that are competing with us for this same pool. And with that shrinking college age population, coming right down the pike at us, I think we have to work harder than ever with our policymakers, with, other, industries, other associations, and make sure we make it really attractive to get these students to stay here. We do such a great job of creating the best and the brightest. I think the opportunities are just boundless, but we've got to work together to make sure that we keep them here in our state once they graduate, and that they go to school here, and that they come to work for employers here in New Jersey.
Cathy, you're preaching to the choir. We just had a 2-day business summit where we did exactly that, and we've been doing it for 3 years, trying to expound the cheerleading of the benefits of New Jersey, the demographics, the assets, the location, best state in the country to do business in. We just have to make sure that more people start to believe that, and that'll help with your issue and many other issues.
Absolutely.
So, thank you to Cathy, Amanda, Michael, and Lynn. Appreciate your great commentary. It's been a great session. I'm going to give a shameless plug for May 20th, which is our golf outing at the Beedensbrook Club in Skillman. Please, if you haven't signed up, find out about it. It's a great event and a great day to network. And I need to once again thank NJM Insurance Group for their ongoing sponsorship of these webinars. They've been a great partner for the last 3 years, and we hope that continues into the future. So thank you to the panelists. Thank you to the participants. Hope you enjoyed this and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.